everybody. We are here today to talk about the great sales numbers of Tears of the Kingdom. Big numbers. Big
Nintendo
money.
came out this morning with an announcement, which frankly I thought might have been coming a couple days earlier.
Yeah.
But they announced that in the first 3 days, the game sold over 10 million copies worldwide. It is now the fastest selling game in the Zelda series.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 10 million, over 4 million came from the Americas. And now it is the fastest selling game for Nintendo's history in the Americas. So wow.
Wow.
A lot of stuff there.
Yeah. We're very used to doing these types of, we used to call them sales momentum press releases. That's the official term. When we worked at Nintendo, we each worked at Nintendo for about over a 10 years piece. And so we are very familiar with these kinds of releases. So let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, these announcements are tricky to pull together because you need to get the sales data as fast as possible. You need to get it from all the different regions.
Yeah.
You need to verify it. And frankly, some of the regions are better equipped than others at getting that sort of quick turn sales data. So
looking at you, Europe, always last to give us the data.
Yeah, so we have seen them turn these around over a weekend and get out on like a Sunday night or a Monday morning. I imagine there was probably like one or two things lingering or something they needed to like triple check before it got out.
Exactly.
But I think this was a bit of a foregone conclusion to me, at least. The Switch is just like the golden goose when it comes to these big first-party series. Every game that comes out seems to break a record. Splatoon, Pokemon, now Zelda. And you compare it to the launch of Breath of the Wild, which has gone on to sell 30 million copies. But it was a Switch launch game, so you were limited to how many Switch systems were out there. And I remember, I was like, oh, we had 100% attach rate for Breath of the Wild and Switch.
Yeah. Do people know what attach rate means? That means everybody that bought a Switch hardware also bought Breath of the Wild. Which was a wild data point, because that basically never happens. You dream of the day that you can get that kind of number. So Breath of the Wild did very well in its own right, given the timing that it came out. But you're absolutely right. Right now, the install base or the people that have a Nintendo Switch is so huge and massive. Pretty much anything this late in the life cycle that comes out that's going to be a first-party game is going to be a hit for Switch. It's just the sheer numbers. Really, like you can't. It doesn't work the other way. It just can't work the other way. So
and I think there's three things at play here specifically. First of all, the game is incredible. 96 Metacritic. Everybody is super happy with it. Number two, like you said, the Switch install base is massive. But there is a part 3 to that, which is a lot of people who have a Switch are still playing it and using it. Like when we worked on something like the Nintendo 3DS, we would hear like, oh, the install base is pretty big, but a lot of people like just aren't touching the system. It's like in their drawer and they've forgotten about it. Mm-hmm. But that's what Nintendo's been able to do, which makes it such an impressive generation. Is it's just like people keep playing games. There's always some next game to keep people glued to the system.
Yeah, and think about how many years it's been for this life cycle. It has been a very long life cycle for Switch already. To keep people's interest on a piece of hardware for this length of time is really quite a feat, and speaks to the way that Nintendo has planned their release calendar, has planned when games are coming out. Obviously this game, Tears of the Kingdom, was a delayed game, so maybe it worked in their favor, maybe not. We won't ever know. But everyone's interest remains really high, and people are clearly still using their Switch and playing their Switch daily. So that definitely has helped all of these other games, these later games, break all these records.
So this was obviously a massive launch. It did not surpass Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I saw some people pointing out that it was about 10% lower. Yeah. So again, great testament to Pokemon's huge launch. But something to keep Nintendo warm at night is this game did cost $10 more.
That's right.
So they did make, and I just did some quick math. They made $700 million. off of this. And then you think about all the other Zelda stuff that they released, the collector's edition, the amiibo, the hardware, all the other stuff. It's like, wow, they really are like cashing in on the opportunity of this game.
Yeah, which they should. From a business perspective, that makes a lot of sense. They're going to really try to wring out as much as possible from, again, this huge amount of players that own a Switch that want to play this game, are interested in, are passionate about this franchise. That all translates to dollars for Nintendo. So good on them for taking this opportunity, seizing this opportunity to make some money. We were joking around earlier this week before this release came out, where we were wondering what the headline was going to be, because you and I both were pretty sure it was not going to break the Pokemon records from last year. And whenever we used to work on these kinds of releases, that you have to kind of like slice and dice the numbers a certain way so it feels big and momentous. And of course, everyone's going to be comparing it to that massive Pokemon release and those numbers. So interesting that they went with fastest selling, which is a sort of a headline that doesn't conflict with the Pokemon headline that we saw last year.
Yeah, you never want to make it look worse than the last thing that you were touting. So the bar just keeps getting raised higher and higher, which is why you'll eventually see, either fewer of these announcements or them using some other sort of metric to qualify it.
Exactly.
So a couple other things that stood out to me. So this is actually already the second best-selling Zelda game ever. And I was going through the franchise sales history, and there was actually, before Breath of the Wild, there was never a game on a single platform. There are games that have released on multiple platforms that passed 10 million, but never on a single platform. So that's amazing that that the series has just done a complete 180. And I think people conflate like, Mario, Zelda, like they're on the same level. Like these are just huge franchises. Like Zelda was not as big as some other Nintendo franchises.
Yeah.
And frankly, before Breath of the Wild, there was a bit of concern about the trajectory of Zelda, which just seemed to have a cap on it. Despite these games getting bigger and more ambitious, they just couldn't break through and reach new audiences. So obviously Breath of the Wild completely blew the top off of that. But it's just completely redefined the series in a way that feels like is going to last for a really long time.
Yeah, that's exciting, because there was that concern about, if there weren't major changes to the franchise, will this franchise eventually just become very niche, like some of the other Nintendo properties? And that would be, that's such a interesting thought exercise of, if Breath of the Wild never happened, what would the Zelda franchise look like today? Thank goodness it did, because here we are. And there's so many new people that have never played a Zelda game before that are loving the series now, or people that have lapsed and, haven't played a Zelda game for a long time that are now back and more passionate than ever. So that's a wonderful thing to breathe new life into the series and really like elevate it to the level of Mario. I don't think Link will ever have the wide appeal that Mario has. Maybe in a couple of years if they keep working at it, but it certainly is getting closer to that mark, which is great to see.
So the one other question that people might be asking themselves when they see this today is, okay, Breath of the Wild has sold 30 million. This game's got off to this incredible start. Could it surpass that 30 million mark of Breath of the Wild? What do you think?
I think yes. I think that we are looking at, again, the huge install base of Switch. There might be people that have yet to pick this game up that will later on. So I think the momentum for this game, and also the conversation and people's interest in this game, is going to have a very long life, as it did with Breath of the Wild, and perhaps even longer than that. So I think that will keep the game in conversation, in the social sphere for a really long time, and hopefully that means more people will keep thinking about it and pick it up.
But you know what might not have a long life left in it is the Nintendo Switch.
That's
which is
true.
Where my answer to this is I don't know. So Breath of the Wild, has been on sale for 6+ years. It's had all of that time to expand with the Switch install base. Now the Switch install base is huge, but it's like, do we have like a year left with the Switch? What exactly do we have? If we're just basing it on that life cycle alone, I'm not sure it'll get to 30 million. But imagine a world where the Switch 2 releases with a deluxe version of Tears of the Kingdom that has cleaned up graphics, nicer graphics, runs great. Mm-hmm. Might have some sort of additional like content, like DLC baked into it. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking. And now that 30 million is in reach.
That's what I'm thinking too. It's like, it really depends on, we already know a little bit about the timing of potentially a new system. It's not going to be until, after the fiscal of next year. Nintendo has already announced that. But we don't know what that system looks like. There's very much a reality where Tears of the Kingdom is going to be either playable on the next system, improved for the next system. We know there's got to be DLC coming for this game that might turn people and sell more copies for them. There's got to be more in the hopper for this massive game that the team has worked so long on. So I don't think they have shown all their cards yet. So I do think that 30 million or beyond, is within reach.
Yeah, with Breath of the Wild, we got the DLC announcement very early before the game even came out. And initially I was wondering why that didn't happen with this game. But then I think we both came around on like, well, that could be a really nice boost for Switch very late in its life cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, understanding, look at what Nintendo's learned about wanting to launch a new system with great content. Again, maximizing the money that they could make on this game. There are a lot of pieces that add up to, again, depending on when that next system comes out, like this could be in that huge launch lineup or launch window to really move people over. And especially, it better be easier than the Animal Crossing thing, but if there's a way you need to migrate your save over.
Oh boy.
So that you don't lose everything that you've done. That would be a must. But it feels like something they could do.
Yeah, like please don't let me accidentally lose all my Tears of the Kingdom save data in the transfer from old Switch to new Switch. That would cause riots around the world. But yeah, Nintendo has certainly, learned and is very focused on the launch lineup for any new system. They know, from lots of experience, we were there for a lot of that, learning those hard lessons when you don't have a quote killer app, as they call it. It's not great, for that piece of hardware. We saw that fail with 3DS. We saw it fail with Wii U. We saw it succeed with Switch. So I think that's going to be top of mind for them as they think about what is happening to transition, that shaky, rocky transition that we're talking about from old to new system, how to really capitalize on the fervor and passion and, the zeitgeist, as they say, of Tears of the Kingdom. I hate that word. I don't know why I just used that. Of Tears of the Kingdom, and use that to their advantage if they're going to be launching something new.
Exciting times.
Interesting and exciting times. Every day, a new adventure awaits. Inside and outside of Hyrule, guys.
It's true.
Good stuff. Okay. That's it.
That is.
What do you guys think? Do you guys care about sales, or do you guys just want to go back to playing your games? Yeah, it's fun to be on the other side of these. It's fun not to work on these. They're really annoying to work on. So very, very cool to just kind of react to it now. All right. We're going to wrap it up, and we will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye.